Got a really exciting webinar tonight. Really excited for Duncan to join us. We're going to talk about the future of basketball analytics and how coaches specifically can use AI to win more games. My name's Sean O'Connor. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at SportsVisio. I'm a sports coach. I coach basketball teams. I coach soccer teams. I have 4 young athletes. I spend a ton of time on the pitch, on the court, in addition to my role here at SportsVisio. Duncan, you're very welcome. Had some big news recently with your move to the Pistons. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for some thoughts on that move and also how you're using analytics to grow your own game.
I've been very fortunate to spend the last 7 years of my professional career in Miami. A lot of really special moments wearing that jersey, playing down there. Had the opportunity to go elsewhere this summer. So bittersweet for sure to be leaving Miami, because it is a place that definitely, really started to feel like home. But I'm super excited about this basketball opportunity. Super young, ambitious team, led by Cade, who's, in my opinion, and maybe now I'm a little biased, but ascending to become one of the best players in the NBA. He was last year, as an All-NBA guy. So really excited to be playing with him, and just the youth that they have. As a 31-year-old now, I will say my career's been flying by, but I feel pretty fortunate to have had some experiences that I can hope to share with those guys. And I'm also looking to really learn from them and just be, in a refreshing environment and, give everything I can to that group. So, from that standpoint, I'm super excited. As far as the analytics go, there's so much out there, and that's what's great about the way, technology is sort of synergizing with basketball. I try to sort of wrap my mind around, 3, 4, 5 things when it comes to analytics that I can really hone in on. I've found that if I get too sort of lost in the chaos of everything, I can kind of get distracted. So when it comes to me, and one thing I really try to do throughout the season is track, in 5-game stretches, sort of my trends. That's one thing I really like to focus on. There's certain metrics I look at: offense, defense, shooting, of course, and then certain actions and situations that I'm involved in. So just try to get feedback over 5-game stretches, and then over, see how it compares to the season at large. So just to kind of see, areas where I need to tighten up, areas where I'm slipping. But yeah, that's just one example of how I've sort of integrated in my, player development.
Amazing. And I love that idea of a 5-game recency trend. Shows you what's most recent and really what's most actionable as well. You've had a chance to play in some great systems, both in the pros and also in college, and looks like as well in high school and in your previous experience. What have you observed from great coaches who are leveraging analytics really effectively?
Sort of what I was just alluding to from a player development standpoint. I mean, I'll tell you this: I've learned to sort of hone in on a handful of things through my own experience, but I've also stolen a lot of ideas, from some of the coaches that I've been around. Coach Beeline at Michigan, he had his own way of looking at the game, and having been a head coach for as long as he was at the college level, he sort of did it a little differently. He would sort of harbor the analytics to himself and not necessarily share it with the team. We would look at some things from a team standpoint, but very rarely would we look at individual analytics. And obviously that stuff was available on Synergy, and guys, of course, were doing their own deep dives. But when it came to developing a player development plan, it wasn't really something that was talked about transparently. Spo and everybody at the Heat were very different. And I think that sort of leans to how the NBA is now and the focus around player development. Not saying that Coach Beeline didn't have that or colleges don't have that, but there's so much more emphasis on player development in the NBA. I've found, I think in college it's more team-driven analytics, team-driven player development. But Spo would do a really good job of breaking down 3 to 4 numbers that were really indicative of our success as a team, and then also the individual's success. We would have, to the point where he would put it on a whiteboard and say, look, when we get this many assists, this is our record. When we hold teams under 100, this is our record. When we, trying to think of other things that we really valued last year. When we, offensively, when we had ball reversals this many times in a possession, this was our points per possession. And obviously the trends sort of shifted throughout the year. But he would do a really good job of sort of focusing in on 2 or 3 things every time we kind of got together as a group, whether it be a practice or a shoot around, and not sort of inundating us with all these numbers. Because whether you're talking about teaching or you're talking about coaching, how good of a coach or a teacher you are really is dependent on how much your students or players can retain. So it's great. I mean, Spo and the analytics team or our video guys would spend hours and hours pouring through all this stuff. The reality is not all of that is going to get through to the guys. You got to pick and choose. And that's one thing where I thought Spo was really effective at. He would hammer home on specific things and really make them themes all year.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And Spo's certainly a legend, starting his career with the Heat in the film room himself. I love that career trajectory, is starting as an analyst. 30 years later, he's got multiple titles and legendary status as a coach.
Yeah. I mean, Spo's probably forgot more basketball than I know. I've learned so much from him. Just the way his approach and the basketball stuff and the X's and O's, but he does a really good job of coaching the human as well. That can sort of kind of get lost, especially when it gets to the professional level and there's so much player movement. But he really does a good job of kind of leaning into that. So I've learned so much from him. That's part of the reason why I'm it's bittersweet to be leaving. I have so many memories with that guy and that whole organization. But like I said, I'm super excited about what's in front as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you have 3 to 5 key stats or metrics that you look at on an annual basis. Have those changed over time as you've progressed in your career?
Yeah, honestly, they've changed season to season since I've been a professional. It wasn't. I didn't really have at Michigan and in college. We didn't really have the resources or the bandwidth to be able to go into a video room and be like, hey, look, I want to see all these isolation possessions defensively, and I want to see what I'm giving up, or I want to see the possessions where I'm fouling and how I get caught in a bad way. So what I've really just befriended and gotten to know the video guys and girls. We have a girl, Maggie Moran's there, who's just an absolute workhorse. So we've become really close, and I'm constantly like texting, hey, can you clip this and send this? Hey, I want to see my numbers, shooting off the dribble going right over the last 10 games. I try to, as much as I can, I alluded to this earlier, break things up into at least, 5-game stretches. I've found that when it comes to stats, if you get too in the weeds and too granular on a game-to-game basis, anybody can have a 2 to 3 game stretch where you're shooting the ball like shit, or going left, you might miss the shots that are totally great reps and in and out and down. So I try to take a little bit of a bigger sample size to get a little bit more perspective on that stuff. But it has shifted more to my strengths, right? Like when I play in the NBA, like I'm not asked to have a 20% usage and handle the ball and dribbles 6, 7, 8 times. So I really try to focus in on the shots and spots in ways that I am getting my looks, and just try to optimize and become as efficient as I can in those areas.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. It's super helpful. What I hear is you take 5 games, you look at that, you take 3 to 5 stats, you make it actionable, you make it something that changes over time. Just building on that, what would be your guidance to a coach who's looking at using SportsVisio coach mode? Let's say they're early in their coaching career, they're just getting started, they're coaching a high school team or an international club or an AAU program. What would you advise to them, and how could they get started?
I think first off, having the resources, the accessibility to have technology at that level is really special. I mean, you're taking something that previously had only been available to really the highest levels and programs or organizations with the most resources, and sort of democratizing it. So take advantage of that. First off, I think, and this is part of this sort of new age debate around analytics. Analytics tells a very important story, but it's only part of the story. And I think sort of coupling the objectivity of analytics with a subjectivity of what you're trying to teach in a system that you're trying to implement as a coach, sort of threading that needle and creating that synergy between the two. Find ways to teach in areas where the analytics can sort of resonate with your players. It sort of goes back to the point that I was making earlier, in that you can throw numbers at people all day long. If it's not sort of resonating or getting through, then you might as well just be throwing it at the wall or spitting into the winds. So much of it is that human coaching element of getting it through to your players. And in my opinion, how you do that is, first off, letting your players, whether it be guys, girls, letting them know that you care. And I think a cool thing about analytics is you can go up to somebody and be, hey, look, these are some trends that have been going on the last games. Sort of that relationship that I'm alluding to with my, video people. You guys can now do that at a different level. So I think that's really special. Showing your players that you're really invested in them, because as a player and somebody who spent a lot of my career questioning and hoping that I was good enough to belong, the power of being believed in by your head coach just goes such a long way. So use them really as a teaching tool, a development tool, but then also a way to instill and grow confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to play that back, show you care first, develop the relationship, use both data analytics, but as well the video, right? And really try to find a balance in doing so.
Exactly.
Right on. Good stuff. Well, Duncan, a couple quick hitters, a little more fun, just to round this out. Put you on the spot here. Who's the best teammate you've ever had, and why?
For the record, I got nothing but time. So if you got anything else, or if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer anything. We don't have a back end or anything. Best teammate I've ever had, and why? That's a tough one. I would probably say Drew Smith, teammate of mine in Miami over these last 4 years. Just like the consummate professional. I mean, I think he's been cut 5 times out of camp. Somehow comes back every single year because the organization believes in him. In the last 3 years, he's torn his ACL and torn his Achilles in consecutive years, right when he was on the verge of breaking through. And he just has the most unbreakable spirit maybe I've ever been around. Undrafted kid, just worked for absolutely everything. And he's a really, really good player. The world doesn't even know how good he is, because every time he sort of gets a little bit of confidence and momentum, he gets hurt. But he's poised to go back to camp in Miami this year. And I would not be surprised if he was, firmly in that rotation come the start of the season. Just the ultimate worker. And he's also a really great friend of mine. So I'm a little biased in that respect too, but he's just been a pleasure to be around for the last 5 years.
That's great. And that kind of spirit's definitely contagious in a team setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favorite gym in the NBA to shoot in, and why?
Ooh. To shoot in, I would say Utah. They have a tight backdrop. The rims, it's crazy. I would have thought for sure that there'd be like universal rims in the NBA. There's not. I mean, everyone's using the Spalding rims, but it's a team by team thing on how tight the rims are. Utah has a great backdrop. The stands are really close. It kind of goes vertical on the baselines, and the baselines are right there tight. That is a good one. Madison Square Garden is a fun fact. It used to be a terrible shooting gym, in my opinion. That the rims were super tight. And I actually had a conversation with Jalen Brunson. He complained so much that last year, for the first time in since I've been in the NBA, but I think for 10, 15 years, they actually swapped out the rims and made them looser. So that one's come around too. And now it's a much better place to shoot. But yeah, I would have thought for sure that it was universal. It turns out it's not the case.
Great stuff. Interesting insights on the NBA. Well, Duncan, if you have a couple more minutes, we may have a couple questions from the audience here. Jason, I've made you a co-host as well. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and jump in as well. So Duncan, Jason's asking, how did analytics or video help you when you were younger coming up in your career?
I'll start with video. Probably the first time where I really understood the value of video was playing for Coach Beeline. I mean, anybody that's been around him or has played for him knows how maniacal he was with his video. I mean, we would watch hours upon hours of film, and a lot of people would think that it would be maybe our opponent or our game film. We would watch our game film, but we would watch a lot of practice film. And he's really the only coach that I've ever played for that did it to that extent. But I learned so much because it was these mental reps, and you get into a season, particularly in an NBA season, but even high school and college, and you're limited with how much you can do on the court from like a load standpoint, especially now that I'm 31. Like, there's only so much time I can spend on the court. So film and really pouring into the analytics side has become even more valuable. It's funny, when I was growing up, analytics, I always sort of had a love-hate relationship because analytics were simplified to shooting percentages, and I never really felt like that told the whole story. Even for myself, as somebody who sort of prided myself as a shooter, or somebody who shot a good percentage, even if I had a stretch of games where I was shooting 36% from three, I still felt like maybe I was playing well. And that's where sort of these advanced analytics, points per possession, on-off metrics, all these sorts of things, really started to allow me to kind of look into differently what playing well meant. And it kind of gave me a little bit more confidence if I had a stretch where I wasn't maybe shooting the ball as well as I wanted to, that I could still impact the game in a positive way.
Great stuff. Well, one more question for you, Duncan, and then we'll let you get on with your evening there. How does SPO or other NBA coaches get buy-in on applying analytics to players who maybe aren't analytical or have a hard time engaging with analytics data video?
If I had the answer to this, I would be an amazing NBA coach. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that's a lot of what you're running into today, and really a lot of the challenges that come with being particularly an NBA coach today. I don't envy guys in those seats. It's a really hard situation to be when you're balancing so many egos and people in, guys' corners talking about this, that, or whatever, whether it be agents or old coaches or friends or just their own individual circles telling them to play this way or shoot this shot, or this is a good shot for you. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. It's a hard, line to walk. I think the best way to try to do it, and once again, I don't have all the answers, and it's part of the reason why I don't really have any interest in trying to become an NBA coach, is to try to convey messaging as much as you can from a team perspective while also acknowledging, the person. It's you try to be transparent, or SPO would try to be transparent in that it might be fair, but it's not going to be equal, right? And that, in my 7 years playing with the Heat, I probably took under 50 mid-range jump shots. Tyler or Jimmy or Bam might take 50 in a 5-game stretch. So understanding now for me, like I sort of recognize and know what that is, and know that really leaning into that can actually be a huge asset for me, and a strength that I can sort of lean into and separate myself because of. Understandably, like, some guys have been shooting those shots their whole lives, and to tell somebody, hey, like, when you come off this pick and roll and you get to the nail, like, we don't want you taking that shot, that can be a really hard conversation to have. So trying to sort of emphasize, look, like, this is really all about winning on the bottom line. And that's one thing where, regardless of my standing with him, or I was in the rotation or out of rotation or whatever, I knew SPO was about winning. because that's just what he prides himself on, and that's what he emphasizes every single day. So I think that's sort of how he does it, is he tries to not get too caught up in the micromanaging of like, hey, this person can take this shot and this person can't, but instead just be like, look, we're all just trying to win here. A rising tide raises all boats. And if we can win, then we'll all get everything that we're looking for in this league. So it's a hard line to walk, but the great coaches figure out a way to do it.
I was just going to add to the question that was asked when I talked to the Phoenix Suns chief operating officer and head of analytics, and they were expressing what they try to do is really they do the work to figure out what analytics are most key for the team and then break it down by player, both on offense and defense. And then they're really trying to lean into the TikTok short video content generation. And they were asking us like, hey, can you help us? We know how to do this, but guys have a short attention span. We've got like 3 minutes. Can you give us 3 minutes of just like short video clips of, hey, you're going to guard so-and-so tonight, and he always goes left, and he's got this mid-range floater. Here's a clip. Here's a couple of guys doing it right. Watch this 3-minute video on your phone and really try to like make it, keep it simple, stupid kind of thing. Just as simple, dumb, compressed. They do the analytics of like, hey, this is what we know. Here's the most important thing. What are the 3 things to tell a guy? How do we boil down to like a simple message, a simple couple of videos, show them that they can access, and they don't have all the tooling for that. It's something we're talking about. Could we help them? But I thought that was super interesting. And to your point, because there's so much to compress and most people don't want to dig into it. But if you just don't let them go left, and you can boil it down to something simple, like most guys will get that, and coach is telling them to that, and they give them some video to show them why. I thought that was really interesting to understand that messaging. It's not just about the raw facts and data, but it's really about communicating that to people in a way that they can hear and absorb. Elevates people to that really successful layer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, like I think maybe a lot of you guys would be surprised at what a pregame prep looks like at the NBA level, especially in the regular season. I mean, you got to think this might be our 3rd game in 4 nights. We just played 2 other teams. We might not talk about a team until 40 minutes on the clock before the game, and it might be 15 clips, or maybe even less. So now, with that being said, there's a lot of familiarity, across the league in general, especially when you're dealing with kind of older teams and understand what it means to prep. Now, when you have younger teams, obviously there's a lot more emphasis, but still, like Spo always emphasized, like, let's focus on us. Like, let's do what we do really well. We can sort of plug and play, personnel and tendencies, as we get a little bit closer to the game. But let's focus on our system and developing that and who we want to be, from that standpoint.
Amazing. Well, Duncan, thank you so much for taking the time, for joining us tonight, for sharing your experience, your insights, your guidance for the coaches that are using SportsVisio, and hopefully we use SportsVisio in the future. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you all for having me. Appreciate you guys using the product. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's pretty special stuff. So thank you all for being here.
Great seeing
Thank
you.
you.
Take it easy.
Appreciate it. Perfect. So I hope that was really valuable for everyone. I found that to be super interesting, and found Duncan to be really candid with both his experience at the Heat, but also his experience coming up as a player and what he'd do to help young coaches and help young players to grow in the game. One thing that's super important at SportsVisio is we know coaches. This is a product that was built by people who've coached and who've spent time with coaches. We know that coaches, you want your players to grow, you want them to improve, you want to win games. You want to spend your time coaching and game planning. You don't want to spend it cutting up film and clipping games. You want your program to win more games and to achieve your objectives. So we hear that loud and clear. If we can go ahead, a slide here. SportsVisio is going to help you win more games, plain and simple. Just keep going, Oliver. A little bit of background on the company and SportsVisio and what we've been up to. SportsVisio started in 2020 with a really clear vision to bring computer vision to sports at scale, starting with basketball. We've been intentionally video agnostic. So we are a bring your own video solution, whether you're recording games with a camera on the wall that's mounted in a gymnasium, if you have an assistant coach recording the game, or you're just using a camera on a tripod, we can ingest video from any source, and we apply our computer vision to that to produce both data analytics and video highlights that are 95% accurate. We think that we are as accurate or more accurate than most humans scoring games. And best of all, our games are done in 24 hours. We're turning games around really fast, and that will only increase as we know that there's time pressure on it for coaches. So we hear coaches, what they're asking us to do is to have it ready by the time that they sit down at their desk the next morning. So whether that coach is a teacher and she's sitting down at her desk in the morning, or he's working a job and taking a break or taking a lunch break and practice planning, game planning at lunch or over a break, they want it by the next morning. So that is our commitment to coaches. This all started with an app. We built an app that was really focused on the player experience. We felt like there were other players really working with the coach audience and who delivered a well-structured product to coaches. We didn't feel like players had that same product. And so we built a player-friendly app that allowed players to view their game analytics from made field goals, assists, steals, turnovers, blocks, personal fouls. They'd get their full box score, a automatic game highlight with their best plays, and access to all of their clips. And so with my own kids using the SportsVisio app, we go ahead and look at their three-pointers, we look at their assists, and then we also take a look at any turnovers, take a look at things they can improve on. Players absolutely love our app for pre-game visualization. It's one of, I think, the best features for having it on the phone. You heard Duncan and Jason talking about how can players use it for visualization. Take a look at your three-pointers, take a look at your made buckets, any kind of field goals, assists, things that you do well, and use that in prep for a game, whether it's on the bus, in the car, or in the locker room before a game. But what we heard loud and clear is that coaches loved working with us, but they wanted more. And so we've gone ahead and we've built something that we think coaches are going to love for the coming season. A few things we heard very clearly from coaches. When I say more, they wanted it on the desktop. And so whether they're using a PC or a Mac, they wanted to be able to sit down at their computer on a big screen and game plan to use our stats, to use our video to get their team ready for the next game or to help them improve for the coming season. Coaches also wanted advanced analytics. They wanted player minutes. They wanted plus minus. They wanted rotation efficiency. They wanted to understand possessions and to understand where their team could improve from an analytical perspective. And then finally, they wanted shot charts and amazing visualizations. They wanted to take that to the next level and to see some really modern visuals. So what I'd love to do now is go ahead and switch over to a demo. Oliver, I'm going to go ahead and take over here and share a demo of what we've built for Coach Mode here. Ezgi, you're on point for questions, so I would encourage anyone to just go ahead and ping a question into the chat if you would like, and feel free to interrupt me at any time. I'd rather that this was a dialogue and not just me talking for the next 10 minutes. Okay, Oliver, can you give me a confirmation that you can see this?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So what we built here within our web program, this is a prototype version, assuming that I'm Norman Dale of the Hickory Hoosiers in 1951-52 season from the movie Hoosiers. This is my season view. And so if I had multiple seasons in the app, so let's say I started now and I'm looking at this again a year from now, I could easily go ahead and filter and look back at previous views. We think about player minutes and possessions as the two bookend metrics. Once we've generated the minutes that the player is on the floor, as well as the total number of possessions that they've been involved with and which possessions they were involved with, there are NBA style analytics that we can start to put together. So I mentioned the plus minus metric here. We also have the PI score, or the player impact estimate, which is an amalgamated amalgamated version, aggregated version rather, of a number of stats that brings together a really compelling view of the player's total contribution to the game. Other helpful metrics coaches have been asking for: assist to turnover, offensive rating, defensive rating, true shooting percentage, effective shooting percentage, and rebound percentage. We have all of those in the app. We've also spent a lot of time studying shot charts and visualizations, and we think that this idea of a hex shot chart is super compelling when you look at shot charts from multiple games. So what we've built here and what will be available to coaches this fall when their season starts or in the winter is this hex shot chart view. The bigger the hex tile, the more shots that have been taken from that location, and the warmer the color, the higher the shooting percentage is from that location. This will be either relevant to the league that they're playing in or to the SportsVisio benchmarks. Also a really nice hover over feature for you to see the shooting percentage in specific zones on either the left or the right-hand side of the screen here. If we look at a specific game, this is one of the massive differentiators for us, and something that we've gotten the most positive feedback from coaches on is bringing an AI assistant coach to our platform. If you think about the last game being the most important, but hearing from Duncan, he looks at the last 5 games, and that's what we're doing. Is we're weighting the most recent games, but looking at the games in the context of a full season to produce AI assistant coach here. The assistant coach is going to bring positives and areas of improvement for both the team that you're coaching as well as for the opponent. And so most of our coaches will find themselves playing teams multiple times. So this is super valuable to be able to go back in and to look at what happened the last time that we played the South Bend Central Bears, to look at the opponent page there to see what they did well, what they didn't do well. And also to just build on this, we think there's a massive amount that we can do here to start bringing in practice planning. If you're getting out rebounded, here are 3 drills that you can do. So that's all in scope and something that we will deliver in time for the coming season. Each game has a box score as well, so that is here. And this is the feature that I'm probably personally most excited about, is this clickable shot chart. If you go to NBA.com, take a look at Duncan Robinson, you'll see a similar view for him here. Well, you'll see his shot chart with very few mid-range jumpers on the left-hand side, and then the actual video on the right-hand side. And so just to play that along, how that will work here, once you can get into that shot chart, let's go ahead and filter here. So if I filter it to Jimmy Chitwood, I click apply, I'll see Jimmy's shots here, and I click on an individual shot, I'll see the actual video of Jimmy Chitwood's game-winning jumper against South Bend from the movie Hoosiers. So again, that's available for all players on your team as well as the opposition team for both made and for missed shots. And then finally, we think that these charts here are helpful for coaches to understand how games are evolving, how they're changing. ESPN does a really nice job of having these 2 charts within their game summary. The game flow will, in time, also have rotations. So if you see this line here, coaches are going to want to know who was on the floor during those first 3 minutes of that really critical section in the second half when the momentum entirely changed, and who was on the floor for maybe those last 30 seconds or the last minute. So that will be an overlay where coaches can see who was participating and what the impact of that participation was. So that's a very quick overview of Coach Mode. Oliver, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you. But before I do, I'm going to pause and check in with Ezgi and see if there are any questions.
No questions yet.
Okay, so we'll have more time for questions at the end here. We just have a couple more slides. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, was on the All-In Summit yesterday. He had this quote, and I think it's just fantastic. It's probably accurate for all of us. He said, if you're not using AI, you're going to lose your job to somebody who uses AI. That we know for certain. And so that is the opportunity that we see for coaches. If you want to go ahead, one slide here, Oliver. We are bringing AI to coaches through Coach Mode and have that available. Let's go ahead, one more, please. Have that available between now and the start of September at a special introductory price of $600 for a full season. On September 1st, that price will go up to $750. We're really excited to get coaches, to get programs in here. Some of the frequently asked questions are, will my players get access? And that's up to coaches. Coaches will be able to use both our web platform as well as our app. And at their discretion, they can enable players and parents access through the app as well. So we do think that the two platforms are really complementary for players to be able to use the app to review film, and for coaches to be able to use the web platform to do quite a bit more. So that's our offer. It's available now at the URL you see here on the left, sportsvisio.ai/coach mode. I'd be happy to go ahead and stop there and see if there are any questions. If you have any, feel free to raise your hand or come off mute or ask them in the chat. Okay. Well, everyone has my contact information. We'll follow up with an email to everyone with the details as well as the links and a recording from the session that we had. You see my email and my phone number on here. Happy to chat anytime. So I would encourage people to go ahead, reach out. Chris, I see you have a question as well. You go ahead.
Sean, thank you for the excellent presentation. My only question is, do you have any individual player options, or is everything focused on B2B enterprise?
So tell me more about the scenario. Is it for individual player for a full season, or what would you be looking for?
I mean, yeah, just in general, if any individual who is a player, be it, different levels of depth of participation, maybe even as low as pickup, is there any sort of individual player option of the type, or is it more org? The org needs to actually do the sale and disseminate licenses to its players.
For sure. So we're really flexible on the model there. Our AI runs the game and it produces stats and highlights for every player on the floor on both teams. And so theoretically, an individual player can purchase a package in the same way that a coach or an organization could if they were interested. Happy to chat more if you have specifics or if there's a specific scenario you're thinking about, but it's definitely open for individuals to purchase as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have another question coming. Do people do stats, or does AI do it completely?
Good question, Justin. So we are learning as fast as we can as we apply our AI to games. We process thousands of games per month, and we do apply a human review to that in order to ensure that every game is at 95% accuracy.
And for the next question that we got, can players make their own playlists and highlights?
Hey, Kieran, good question. And the answer is not yet, but soon. Ezgi's smiling because this is her favorite feature to ask for our SportsVisio platform. It is coming. I would expect that sometime this year, for sure, players have the ability, or coaches have the ability to select favorites and then to stitch together a custom playlist, custom highlight reel within the app that can then be shared or saved as well. So it's coming.
We have also Dan asking, is there a print and export mode for the stats and assistant AI comments?
Hey, Dan, good to see you and hear from you. Yes, and it will improve in the future as well. So currently coaches can export a CSV of the individual game stats. We've been looking at industry standards, whether that's what Genius is doing or Presto is doing or others are doing, where coaches come off the floor and they have a coach view with a really robust box score, shooting percentages, points in the paint. We do expect to have a PDF export similar to that in time for the season to start, for sure. Cool. Good questions. Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Really appreciate everyone joining us. tonight. And again, encourage you to go ahead and reach out. My email address is on here. I'm happy to have a chat. Feel free to drop me a text or WhatsApp or give me a call. I'm happy to talk more about Coach Mode. And again, the special pricing is available until the end of August at $600 for a full season, and that will increase to $750 starting in September. So if you're thinking about it, let's have a chat in August and make sure that we get you that introductory pricing. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.